This is TWiT.
This one is not directly Linux, but it is something that we cover on the show from time to time, and that I know a lot of people are interested in. And that is the big AI lawsuit is happening, or maybe is happening. And there's a couple of things here that I found very interesting. So this is a class action lawsuit, and it is potentially going to be the largest copyright class action lawsuit that has ever been allowed to proceed. And it is quite a few authors versus Anthropic and Anthropic AI. And apparently they're trying to get up to 7 million people in claimants, the technical term, in this class action lawsuit. And so, it's going to be Anthropic AI versus these 7 million people. And the interesting thing about a class action that is that large is if it goes to trial and the trial swings in favor of the people, then the potential for losses from it is huge. There's one line here in the Ars Technical article that there's the possibility of $150,000 fine per work, I believe it is. So for each book that they loaded into the Anthropic AI, so hundreds of billions of dollars in potential damages. It's a lot. It's big. So when you talk about something this big, most companies will settle if they can. What Anthropic is actually trying to do is to block this mega lawsuit and say, no, these all need to be handled individually, because when you have these individual lawsuits, there's less risk in taking one of them to trial. If Anthropic loses, they pay out a much smaller amount, and then they can settle the rest. Whereas if you do it all as one big block, just the numbers are ridiculously huge. It's company ending, right? It would be the end of Anthropic if they got a judgment of this size. There were a couple of other things that were really interesting here. And one of them is that the judge that is overseeing this, that Anthropic essentially criticized in their their filings on this and some of the statements that they've made. It's Judge Alsup. And those of you that have been watching sort of the Linux world might remember Judge William Alsup. He was the guy that originally tried the Oracle v. Google case over Android. And very famously, in the middle of a court session, they were talking about the range check function. So this is in the Android case. And the judge says, I know what range check does. It makes sure that the numbers you're inputting are within a range. I'm reading from the court documents now. And if they're not, they give it some sort of exceptional treatment. It is so that witness, when he said that a high school student would do this, is absolutely right. And so this was sort of the statement that people recognized from the middle of that legal battle, that courtroom drama. Wait a second, Judge Alsup actually knows how to code. And one of the things that you heard is he taught himself Java to be able to try the case, which is sort of true. But apparently he had been programming for decades in things like BASIC and various languages. And so all that to say, Judge Alsup knows how technology works. He is one of the ideal judges to have his hands on this particular case because he has a clue about how technology works. Some judges and lawyers even do not. He seems to. So that kind of made me feel good about this. I have over on Floss Weekly, I have actually asked a lawyer about the AI question, and we sort of spitballed, well, what would happen if you had, and we described sort of a case like this, where you had authors come up against an AI company and say, what you're doing, training an AI off of our works, is copyright infringement. And it was very interesting to me. The lawyer's comment was, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. And that's really interesting here, because, like, even if, let's say worst case scenario, even if this kills this particular company, right? Even if Anthropic is ruled against and goes under, people are going to want their AIs on the internet. And I have to agree with him. I think no matter what the court rules, there's no stopping LLMs and training LLMs on this data. There's going to have to be maybe a little bit more care taken. They're maybe going to have to be sneakier about it. I'm not sure how all of that's going to wash out. But I have to agree. I do. No matter what the courtroom says, I do not see a future where we give up on training AIs on public data. It's just too powerful of a tool, and too many people want it too badly. This is the sort of thing that you sometimes see new political parties and new political movements formed over, right? So I could see even a political party come out of this that is the AI party, and their stick is, we want to redefine how copyright works so that we can have working AI. It is an incredible time that we are in. And I don't know what's going to happen with this particular court case, but it is so fascinating to watch.
Well, there's so many nuances there because, they say, well, I get okay, I wrote this, I should have rights to it, and somebody's using it. And then you hear, oh, well, AI can just spit out, parts of a book. But then I've also heard, well, to get it to do it, you got to like pre-feed it a couple, paragraphs to get the exact, which seems kind of funky. And I don't know. And I agree, copyright laws went too far. I mean, that was Disney that kept pushing that.
Yes.
And they wanted it longer and longer until they realized, oh, we can trademark our stuff and then it doesn't have a time limit. Mm-hmm. So then they quit pushing copyright out for years and years and decades. And I know there's been a lot of issues with Google trying to preserve old books where they've got to try to track down who, a lot of kind of orphaned books, like who owns the copyright. And there's people that don't even realize they own the copyright to a book because somebody's great great uncle wrote it, wasn't a huge success, wasn't, just kind of faded into history. Google wants to preserve it, and then they've knock on your door and go, hey, can we preserve this book? You're the owner of it now, through, legal rights of, they passed and didn't will it to anybody, but you're the surviving relative, so it's now yours. And there's a lot of books that'll probably could die away, and other copyrighted materials, music and whatnot, because who's the owner, we don't know, and it's on mediums that aren't going to last. And I don't know, it's a mess.
Mm-hmm. So the central question with AI here is training an AI on these copyrighted works, is it a transformative act? That's sort of the legal jargon way to put it. And I guess if you were to try to boil that down, what you're asking is training an AI similar enough to what happens when a human reads a book? Like, because we read these books, we remember parts of them, we sort of integrate parts of them into our thought process. Is it essentially the same thing that's happening when an AI reads a book? Or is an AI just copying the book into its database? Well, I would say that in actuality, it's somewhere between those two, right? And then you have the legal question of, okay, how do you handle that in-between thing that's new and we've never had a technology do this before?
Is training an AI like training students in a school?
That's the question. That's essentially the question, yeah.
Where the schools, when they give them a reading assignment, say, There's copies available in the school library.
Yeah. Yep.
And
So you could argue the school purchased the book.
They did.
well,
So the question is then the act of reading the book is going to change the way that the student thinks. Is that a copyright violation? That the book is now imprinted into the student's mind? Is memorization a copyright violation?
is plagiarism of it when you're writing that book report a copyright violation?
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that because there are some really well-defined rules about what makes something plagiarism. And, you know, it's not just, you know, you've lifted this many words in a row without putting it in quotation marks. Like, that's one of the ways you can plagiarize. It's also possible to plagiarize by using the same, like, sentence structure. So you can take someone's sentence and put synonyms in for the words, right? That is still plagiarism. Technically speaking, it is still plagiarism, even if you've used a synonym for all the words. If you have the same thought in the same order, it is considered plagiarism. And so I guess that it would be an interesting test case, like, are AIs plagiarizing books? Maybe that is the better question to ask. Think of it that way.
Plagiarizing the authors.
So all you need to do is they just need to make their AIs talk like Yoda, so it's not in the same order, and then everything's okay.
It doesn't work that way.
Or to rearrange, we will.
There was a book, I think somebody at the EFF published, The Right to Read, that sort of ties into this. And it was a little fiction story about sort of this dystopian future where that idea of copyright extends all the way to reading. And so for someone to read a book, they have to have a license to be able to read it. It was, you know, it's a dystopian future warning for what a possible future. But I'm reminded of that in thinking about this AI question, ironically.
Well, and you know, it gets more complicated too, because okay, you feed a book to an AI. It takes the words and it tokenizes them, and it's doing a lot of analysis on them. So it's not like it just, I have a complete unbiased copy. It does some kind of rearranging, I guess.
Digitizing?
It's much more than just rearranging or digitizing, though. So, like, if you were to pull apart the source files for an AI, like the actual binary files, and look at those tokens, they are completely incomprehensible. It looks like just noise, right? You cannot open the files of the AI and find the book. It's not like it's a database where they have just sucked the book in. Where they tokenize it, it is completely because it's been mapped to a neural net, essentially. And so it's all weights. It's not the actual text anymore. If you enjoyed this clip, be sure to check out the Untitled Linux Show. You can find us in your favorite podcasting app or subscribe to our YouTube channel down in the links below. See you there.